Now, it has been an action-packed 7 months for the Trump administration, but for everything that you see and hear on the news, there is so much more happening behind the scenes. At the FBI, the Director Kash Patel is working around the clock with Dan Bongino and others and other agents. Not only are they dealing with the crime crisis left behind by Joe Biden and unvetted illegals, 12 to 20 million of them, but also peeling back the layers of what has been what we have reported as a deeply politicized, weaponized federal bureaucracy. For example, Kash Patel, the FBI director, recently uncovered thousands and thousands of Russia hoax documents inside these burn bags in a secret room at the FBI. The director also discovered official allegations from a Democratic staffer who accused Adam Schiff of orchestrating leaks of classified intelligence in order to hurt President Trump. Those allegations had been swept under the rug at the FBI until now, and that's not all. According to a bombshell report from JustTheNews.com founder, editor-in-chief John Solomon, James Comey also accused of routinely leaking classified information to the New York Times through a friend, a professor at Columbia University. Just the tip of the iceberg. Anyway, here with the very latest, FBI Director Kash Patel. Kash, great to have you. Let's start with the burn room. Now, your knowledge of this issue runs wide and it runs deep because you were working with Devin Nunes at the time. I believe you were his chief of staff. You know a lot about this topic. Were you as surprised as I was that all of that information in that burn room existed?
Sean, I was blown away, but sadly, it's come to be expected in this town when corrupt bureaucrats weaponize and destroy law enforcement like predecessors of mine did at the FBI. And thankfully, Donald Trump's mandate and election victory was for transparency and accountability. Sean, just think about this for a second. Not only did we expose the Russiagate hoax with the greats like Devin and Trey and Johnny Ratcliffe when we were back there on the House Intel Committee excavating and exposing the FISA abuses, the corruption of political parties and the lies to a federal court just to illegally surveil a presidential candidate. I come in then years later, nearly a decade as a director of the FBI, thinking we uncovered most of it. But sadly, we found a room locked away in the Hoover building that contained burn bags. And just for your audience, Sean, a burn bag is a government bag that is specifically created to destroy classified evidence and shred and burn it, hence the name burn bag. We didn't find one, we found 7. That wasn't the only thing we found in there. We found hard drives from our predecessors and prior FBI leadership, and folks like Page, Strzok, Comey, McCabe, Comey, the list goes on from Russiagate. The names were strewn all over these materials. Now, as our great Attorney General just told you, we can't deny or confirm what we're looking at, but what we can discuss is what we've publicly disclosed. And these documents have been publicly disclosed because the greatest way to educate and bring along the American public for transparency, initiative, and accountability under President Trump is to give them the documents. And step 1 is by cleaning house inside the walls of Hoover.
Okay, well, one of the important things you got to remember is that that's the FBI's job. You gather the evidence, and then it is examined, in this case, by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And, you know, but there's been a lot of talk and a lot written about the investigation into a grand conspiracy. To the extent possible, what can you tell us about that? In other words, that this is long-standing. If it is, in fact, a grand conspiracy, the statute of limitations would be eliminated. Is that what the investigation is about?
Well, Sean, what we're doing is building a case for the American public under the Truth and Transparency and Accountability Initiative. And what I mean by that is AG Bondi brilliantly highlighted our partners, Director Ratcliffe at the CIA and Director Gabbard over at the DNI. We are working with them because the documents that would facilitate an investigation of this magnitude don't just rest at the FBI and DOJ. They're throughout the intelligence community. And we, the Russiagate guys like Johnny Ratcliffe and myself who investigated this and exposed this, are trying to expose documentation that we've known existed for years. At the same time, we're finding new material. So the best approach is to release this information with them and also go to our colleagues in Congress who have an oversight function on the judiciary committees and oversight committees and demand from us information and documentation that we can publicize, things like the Durham Annex, which we've known have existed this entire time, but were classified for political reasons. We are educating the American public as we build through this transparency initiative. And where the investigation goes, I can assure you of this. We will max accountability for the American public. We delivered before when we ran the Russiagate investigation. I now happen to be President Trump's choice for FBI director, and I'm honored to lead that charge with our great partners in Johnny Ratcliffe and our great Attorney General and the prosecutors they have over there who are just as committed to justice as everyone should be, blindly so. We are going to de-weaponize the FBI and get its credibility back to the American people by delivering the accountability they need, by showing them what we're doing every step of the way. That has never been done before.
Restoring the FBI to its former greatness. That would be the words I would use to describe what needs to be done and I hope can be done. If we look at the declassified materials, for example, that Tulsi Gabbard released, you know, we already had an intelligence assessment on the question of whether or not Donald Trump colluded with Vladimir Putin. Here I am in Alaska. They will have a summit tomorrow. And in fact, the conclusion of senior career intelligence officials was it did not happen. There's no evidence at all that it happened. Then the report suggests that Barack Obama himself, along with his top intel officials, that would probably be people like Brennan and Clapper and maybe some others, decided to do a new intelligence assessment because they didn't like the old one. And they got a narrative that moved forward. But yet also they added something, and I believe it was John Brennan that said they did not do this, but then they used the Hillary Clinton bought and paid for Russian disinformation dossier. That was also used by James Comey for the FISA applications. He signed 3 of the 4. He was warned in August of 2016 not to use it. And then we knew definitively by December of 2016 that, in fact, that dossier had been debunked and that Christopher Steele wasn't credible. So the question is a timeline. When you add that to the 2020 election and the fact that by March of 2020, they knew Hunter's laptop, they had verified its authenticity and that it was real, and then they're pre-bunking it by meeting weekly with big tech companies, and then when it gets dropped, which they knew would happen because of Rudy Giuliani's attorney, they knew Bob Costello had a copy, are they putting cinder blocks on the scales of elections? Was weaponization from 2020 to 2024 designed to bloody up Trump? In other words, do we have 3 presidential elections, potentially, that cinder blocks were put on the scales of the election so the results would come out the way one team wanted it to come out, the team in power?
Here's the beauty of it, Sean. You don't have to trust me or trust you. That's all. Everything you recited, the summary you just gave, is years of excavating documents that these deep state actors held and buried and documented their own corruption because they were arrogant enough to think no one would ever find it, that Donald Trump would never become president and appoint a cabinet that would go in and investigate this matter thoroughly. And when you start connecting the dots, here's what I learned, Sean, when I ran the Russiagate investigation. As bad as the crime is, the corruption cover-up from senior government officials who are sworn to uphold their duties and accountability for the American public, they are the ones that violated that trust the most internally and need to be held accountable. So the people you've listed and the names you're calling out aren't surprises. Their names are on those documents. Those documents are public. The FISA's public. The 302s are public. The Strzok page texts are public. Documents are being released weekly by Johnny Ratcliffe and Tulsi, making it public. The burn bag information is coming out. The Durham Annex is coming out. The classified appendix is coming out. The American people are going to see and hear the names themselves, and they can touch and feel it. As far as what my investigators are going to do, these guys are the best in the business, and we've assembled a team of accountability, and we're going to deliver for the American people like never before, because that's what the American people elected Donald Trump to do.
Kash Patel, this is transparency the American people deserve. I know it takes a lot of time. Look, they spent 2 years to bring charges against President Trump, and you've only been there, but what, 6 months? We appreciate you taking time to share this information with us and update us. And we wish you luck in finding the truth. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.